70%. So to have proper pedestrian facilities is a human right. And now from the point of view of health. You know, is this what the future looks like? Sometimes people say, oh, things haven't changed. Look, this is the U.S., the obesity rate in the U.S. In 1985, that was yesterday, none of the states had more than 10% obesity. And this is 90, 95, 2000, 2004, 2005. Today there are some states that more than 1 out of every 3 people are obese. Not overweight, obese. You know, and the problem with that is not an issue of looks, but it's an issue that it has to do with so many physical and mental problems. And then I work with the World Health Organization in the Caribbean. Look at the Caribbean, the women in the Caribbean, but in also so many countries. So we really got to work. And what does this have to do with workable communities? That this is a balance. Either you take in fewer calories or you burn more calories. So the cities and the countries where walking and cycling is a normal part of everyday life have very low rates of obesity. The green line is the line of people walking, cycling, or taking transit, and the red line is the rate of obesity. So it is very clear. You know, obesity rates are going up, and we're talking and writing about it. But for example, in the U.S., this is the level of physical activity, flat. So maybe they gotta do like the British, be more aggressive with the advertising campaign to see if people start getting active and do their 30 minutes a day, such as the British Heart Foundation that came out with this, you know, get your 30 minutes a day in any way. So, why is this a perfect storm? Because the stars are aligned. If 20 years ago we would have thought, what are the ideal conditions to promote walking and cycling? Well, things are taking place, but we gotta have priorities. From the point of view of vulnerability, the most vulnerable are the pedestrians, and then the cyclists, and then the transit, and that should be how we behave. But we gotta eliminate. There are some myths. Some people say, oh, walking and cycling is not safe. And the reality, you know, is if every day we had, last week I was in San Francisco and I was telling them, you know, if 13 pedestrians were killed and 274 pedestrians were injured, you know, we would do something about it. Well, you know, in the U.S. last year, 93,000 pedestrians were hit by cars. And no one even talks about it. More pedestrians are killed every year than all of the Americans that have died in the wars since the war started. So some people say, Gil, you see, that's why I don't walk. And I don't bike because it's not safe. And I said, you know, you remind me of the person that he went home and found out his wife was kissing the next door neighbor on the couch. So then he sold the couch. But there's no need to sell the couch because walking and cycling can and should be made safe. Look in Europe. In Europe, walking and people bike so much more than places like North America or Australia, and there are far fewer deaths. And when you take walking and cycling much more and far fewer deaths. So what they have done is make it safe. For example, Münster, Germany, you don't get one fatality, you get one injury every 608,000 bike rides. So someone told me, oh, maybe it's because cycling is divine in Münster. No, the only divine thing about cycling in Münster is that that's how the nuns get around. They bike. And you know, what they have done is really nice facilities where they separate the pedestrians, the cyclists, the cars. They make nice crosswalks in different textures and different colors. And like Professor John Pusher says, we need to make cycling safe, convenient, attractive, and feasible for all. So another myth is that making cycling infrastructure is just about painting lines. Now, obviously, no, the cars, they don't respect the bad lines anywhere in the world. This is Kentucky, this is New Zealand, this is New York, you know, this is Toronto. So the reality is that we need some kind of physical separation. Because when the cyclist, the only thing that the cyclist has between him and an SUV is a line, they go on the sidewalk and then the pedestrian gets injured. So we need physical separation so that it's safe for the pedestrian, it's safe for the cyclist, it's safe for the cars, and people can bike in the day and people can bike in the night. You know, in Montreal, when they started doing this, all of a sudden you started seeing more children and more women and more older adults. And this is Paris, where they're doing a lot of very interesting things and making separated bikeways and creating their public bicycles. And you know, we need this kind of complete streets that are safe for the pedestrian, the cyclist, the transit, you know. And this is what Jan was showing about Copenhagen. When you have in one level for the cars, 8 centimeters higher for the bikes, and then for the pedestrian. So then it's safe in the winter, in the summer, because each one has their own level, each one has their own space, and then everybody bikes. So we gotta make safe cycling for all. You know, the pedestrians, we walk at around 5K an hour, the cyclists go at 18, and the cars at more than 45. So each one needs their own space. And actually, when you go out and see any cycling facility, any pedestrian facility, please follow the 880 rule. You don't have to be a PhD in engineering. to evaluate the 88. What is the 88 rule? Step number 1. Think of a child around 8 years old that you really love. Your son or daughter or grandchild or so on. Once you have that child in mind, step number 2. Think of an older adult that also you are really affectionate, that you really love. When you have that child and that older adult in your mind, then start thinking, would I send that older adult and child on that crosswalk, on that sidewalk? Would I send them biking to get eggs or milk? If we do, it's because it's safe enough. If we don't, it's not, and we gotta do it better. So the 8 rule, can you imagine if everything that we did in our cities was thinking of making it great for the 8 and the 80? It would probably be good for everybody else. So we gotta think, Minneapolis has many park systems and many great things, but this is not one of them. The cars are going one way, the buses are going the other, and the bikes in the middle. So we gotta think, does it mean the 880 rule? Not really, so they gotta do it better. And I'm not going to talk about Copenhagen, but I'm going to end this section with ONS. And if you have time, I encourage you to go to this, because they really did go beyond the baby steps. And it's a city of 190,000, so that you can see that this can take place in big cities, in small cities, in rich cities, in poor cities. And they did planning, and they got everybody involved in the city, and they did a sustainable transportation plan, thinking of the winter and the summer, the people that go to study, the people that go to work, and then they communicated through the internet. And in the downtown, the bikes and pedestrians go in both directions, but they can't go only one. When you have a lot of traffic, then you separate pedestrians, cyclists, and cars, and then they count. It's very important to count. So when I took this photo, 7,803 cyclists had gone by that day, because this goes to 0 every night at midnight, and they have air on their bikes all over the city, and proper signage so that it's clear for the tourists, and wayfinding maps, and lockers, public washrooms on the sidewalks, and then nice bicycle parking, indoor, outdoor, good quantity, good location. And it's a city of 190,000 people. They got this indoor bicycle parking. That's how people go to the movies. That's how people go everywhere. And when they go to the pedestrian streets, either you leave your bike out or you walk your bike in. And then they have the green wave. So the traffic lights in the city are at the speed of the cyclist. So then when you are going on your bike, you get sensors that tell you how fast you are going. So if you want to take, by the way, when I was talking to the Commissioner of Transportation, I said, what does it matter if I'm going to take 24 minutes to go to work and now I'm going to take 21? And he said, no, Gil, you missed it. It's not about the 3 minutes. It's about sending a message that in this city, a person on a $50 bike is as important or more important than someone on a $50,000 car. So it was quite interesting. But let me turn into the other public space, that is parks and public spaces. And yesterday after I spoke, someone came up to me and said, hey Gil, but this thing about cycling and parks and public spaces, that's nice for the middle class and the upper middle class, but how about the poor? And then I said, that's what people used to tell me when I was Secretary of Parks and Recreation in Colombia, in Bogota. They say, how about the poor? The reality is that having a fantastic public space is even more important for the low income, for the poor. Because, when people are working, the person cleaning the floors in the bank or the president of the bank have the same time, Maybe this day the president of the bank has more anxiety. But when you are in the leisure time, when the poor people really feel miserable, it's in the leisure time. Because in the leisure time, the president of the bank has a country club and restaurants and theaters and movies and parties and so on. But the low income doesn't have any options. So if we improve the way people use the leisure time, we're really improving quality of life. That's why the work that ISCA and all of its members in sport and culture do is so important, because we are really improving quality of life. This is not just about fun and games. It is fun and games, but it goes way beyond that. And also, so we start thinking, are parks and public space important? Yeah, for emotional reasons. They provide happiness, they strengthen communities. When they strengthen communities, they improve safety, and they also are great equalizer. You go to the park and everybody's the same, There are some quantifiable reasons too. They improve the property value, so the cities get more property tax. They bring tourism and economic vibrancy. They improve the personal and the public health, and they also improve the environment. But there are some symptoms. When you go out walking in Copenhagen, and when you go back to your cities, you can see a lot when you observe, and you also listen a lot when you hear. For example, you gotta have good places to sit. This guy needed 5 chairs to be happy. If he had one base, he would not be as happy. He needed a chair for his feet, for his Big Mac, for everything. Sometimes people see, monkey does. Sometimes it's people see, people do, such as this. You know, they put nails and people sad. You know, people are eager, people are hungry of the public space, of good places to sit. He gave up. This one is sitting on her baby. You know, these are the symptoms. You know, you go to this place, you take a look once, you don't go back. What are you going to do? There is nothing, not even a place to sit. So we need good places to sit, like, such as this ones, you know, where a woman can go in the middle of the winter and feel relaxed. You know, these movable chairs are fantastic because you move them around and you sit wherever you are. You know, these people were having so much fun that started to rain and they wouldn't even move. So I said, you know, maybe these women were talking about their husbands. But then a woman said, Gil, you don't know women. They were talking about shoes. That's why they wouldn't move. You know, these fantastic benches like they have in Paris, that you got 5 different groups of people doing 5 different activities and no one could care less what the other 4 are doing. You know, another symptom, sociability. If you go to a public place and you see sociability, usually it's because it's a good public place. Diversity, that you don't only see children or adults or one race or another. People in groups, you know, the teenagers go to the parks and they watch people. The older adults go to the parks and they also watch people. You know, safety about physical crime. You know, the best thing for safety in the public places is to be well used. When there's a lot of people, they are safe. When they are empty, they become very unsafe. Higher proportion of women. You know, women are very selective. When the place is dirty or dark or unsafe, women don't go. So if you go to a park or a plaza without women, another symptom is affection. When you feel relaxed and at ease, you are affectionate with your kids, with your spouses, and so on. So that is another symptom. And now I'm going to mention a little bit about Colombia, Bogota. Not because I was commissioner of Parks and Recreation, and because afterwards one of my brothers became